resources to the players. We try to create an environment that was geared to instilling a process where they would be able to be given the resources and tools to be able to become the best possible player / athlete they could. And we also talked about it from a team perspective, what it is we wanted to be. We put certain things in place that, to Tim's point, they bought into, which is really, really important. I mean, it's interesting hearing Tim talk about this because Lisa basically, talking to Lisa, she had to instill the same kind of things with Team Hungry. When she got there, culture and other things, and Tim was right, low-hanging fruit, and fitness was not an easy fix, but certainly the number one issue to address. But there was all sorts of other things that went in to establishing the kind of culture that's going to give you what we call championship team culture, giving you the best opportunity to achieve the kind of results you possibly can. So it changed over the years. We started at a certain place, and at the end, we had certain things in place. Legacy was important to us. How we won was more important than if we won. We didn't even let the outcome of games necessarily define us. Like there were times when we would play really well and not get the results we wanted, and that was recognized. And there was other times we didn't play so well that we won, and we didn't let that dictate how we felt about performance. So I just think, players' action, coaches' actions, they all come together to create the kind of culture you want. But you have to have the players being part of that. They have to not only buy into it, they may even be part of establishing what kind of culture they want to be involved in. Because it's my experience over the years, the more the players are involved in something, the more likelihood you're going to get the kind of buy-in that you want, whether it's team rules or guidelines, culture, whatever you want to call it. So over the years, I've gotten the players, even at a young age, way more involved than I would have early on in my coaching career.
One thing too, Tim, that I can add about Ken's culture, which I think is different, is that we as players didn't hang out together very often. He had players on the team that sometimes had to drive for 2 hours to get to practice. Like he mentioned earlier, such different ages on the team. But I think what he developed was really a sense of respect amongst each other in the dressing room. And so while I had played for a previous team previous to Ken, that team hung out all the time. I mean, it was, those guys were friends through and through and would go to bat for each other, but it also created a lot more drama because of that. Whereas on Ken's teams, there wasn't much drama. You knew you had a job and you executed your job to the best of your ability because your teammates were relying on you and we were all relying on each other. So I don't know how you really created that culture within that, but from a player's perspective, that's what we felt, that it was all about the respect for the teammate and you did what you could for the team. Maybe, Ken, you can talk about how you kind of created that.
Through trial and error, Sammy. No, I mean, there again, I think, so part of that process is when players expressed an interest and want to get involved in your program or your team. I'd like to think I did a really good job of sitting down and letting them know what they were getting involved with. I think I did a pretty good job of letting them know what the expectations were in a lot of areas, because I didn't want any confusion down the road as to what they were getting into. So I think if you do a really good job through the front door, that enhances the opportunity once they get into your program or into your dressing room, whatever you want to call it. And then the other part of it, Sammy's right. I think that I tried, not me, our whole staff tried to our best of our ability to show players a level of respect. I mean, respect as people, respect as athletes. But also on the other side of that, like I said, what the expectations were. I mean, we were doing a good job of providing opportunities for them to improve. And the expectation is they were going to take full advantage of those opportunities. And if we didn't think so, we let them know. Another thing that later on that I did after Sammy is I used to do a goal setting session with every player that prospectively wanted to come in and play for us. And the reason I did that is I was trying to determine the reason they were playing the game. There was a lot of things in the goal setting part, but part of it was why are they playing the game? What do they hope to get out of the game? So I get a clearer understanding of what that is that they were trying to accomplish. And there's many different reasons, whether it was fun, whether it was to try and hopefully get a scholarship or a university opportunity or whatever it may be. And then we would sit down and say, okay, so this is the way the relationship's going to work. I now understand what you're trying to achieve. They align with our team goals. And every time you make a good decision, we're going to reinforce that you're making a decision that's going to give you the best opportunity of possibly getting the outcomes you want. On the other hand, when you're making a decision that we don't feel is going to help you get where you want to go, we would also do that. And it was done in a respectful manner. No yelling, no screaming. These are really good choices you're making. These aren't so. And we did other things to help too. I mean, I remember when I had a very young Sherry Piper come to join the senior team, I sent her out to work with Geraldine Haney in a gym for one session. And when Pipes came back, I said, Sherry, how was it? She said, Ken, Haney's nuts. She went at it for 2.5 hours in there. Like, she's a machine. And that's what I wanted her to see. You say you want to be a national team player, this is the investment you're going to have to make. So sometimes it's communication, sometimes it's getting people to demonstrate and help them see it. And I do that even with lesser skilled teams. Once I understand what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish, it gives me a better opportunity to make sure not only are they moving in the right direction, but they're also enjoying what they're doing.
Any particularly tough moments you remember, Ken?
Yeah, I've had, over the years, because you've coached hundreds and hundreds of players, I had some players that came in and you sat down, went through the process, and they said yes to everything, but then they got into it and they would want to change the process. And you would have some real tough conversations and some tough situations. I'm stubborn-headed, so I don't give up on people easily. I'll keep going back and keep trying. But I used to also, part of that process coming in, when you're making decisions that's going to hurt the team, there will be, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to, not threatening, but there's consequences to that. And there's also, even from a commitment perspective, everybody's going to have conflicts in life. And so are you asking me to miss something I could say yes to everybody? Or are you asking me something I can't because it's not in the team's best interest? And I used to let that guide me. So yeah, Tim, there was lots of challenges. But sometimes those challenges are some of them turned out really well and gave me the most satisfaction.
I can say that Ken always took on players that, from an outsider's perspective, other coaches would have given up on. And he saw something in those people and saw that they could contribute to the team. And that always went unsaid. I don't think too many people knew about just the extra effort that Ken went to ensure players' success. So many of our players over the years were billeted in Ken's family home. He used to pick me up when I first joined the Arrows. He'd pick me up for practice because I didn't have a car. And those are just little things that he would do that I think just showed the level of caring that he had for the player. And he rarely, I wouldn't say you ever gave up on somebody. You went to the ends of the earth to make sure that their dreams and their lives could go in a good direction and be good citizens of the world eventually. Wally, you're on mute.
Dave Barrett, you got a question? Your hands up or a statement? Go ahead.
Up here. Sorry, guys. I use MS Teams and Zoom all the time, so I'm not as familiar with this software yet. I think, Ken, what I'm hearing from you a lot is you help the players and the team hold themselves accountable, right? So you work with them to establish the parameters of what success means for them. And then by showing them you care, you just have frank conversations with them that say, you know, your actions are not aligning what you told me your purpose was, and I need to hold you accountable for this. And sometimes those conversations are difficult to have, but that's the job of being a coach, right? It's and mentoring someone in that way. Is that true?
It absolutely is true. I mean, you know, one of the frustrations I had, I've watched players that they claim they're super friends, like we're so close, and yet they won't have the conversations that they need to have with each other to really show what I call true friendship. And so as a coach, there again, I think once you establish it and you get involved in it, the players get used to it. I mean, you know, we've all coached players that you want to go down and correct something or have a conversation with you, and they've got an answer for you before you even finish talking about it. They're very defensive in mechanism, and the problem with that is I used to tell players, you're not giving yourself an opportunity. A, be confident enough in your ability to take information in, and you decide, is all the information good? Is some of it good? Is all of it bad? Let it rattle around in your head and then let it go out the ear. But don't deny you that opportunity, because somebody's going to have a gem or two for you at some point. So have confidence in your ability to take the information in. We're not trying to deliver it in a hurtful fashion here. We're trying to help. And yeah, I think you can have honest discussions, and some of them may be difficult. But I think it can be done in such a way that it, you know, hopefully more often than not gets taken the way you hope it gets received. And even if it doesn't, I think you feel better as a coach that you haven't avoided the tough conversations, or you haven't avoided the message you have to deliver. I mean, one of the other things I tell the young coaches nowadays that I talk to out here is you also have to learn to celebrate different. You get some pretty unique people, you know, when you've been coaching for 40, 50 years, you get some pretty unique people over those years. And I've watched some coaches get frustrated by it. And I just think that sometimes you got to learn to celebrate different, and how you're going to communicate with one may not work the same way with another one. So you got to learn your athletes and figure out the best way. And that's done through trial and error. I mean, I've had players that give it to me straight, and I've had other players that you got to be careful how you deliver the messages. But I think that's the art side of the game of coaching. I really do. I think that's the people side of the game. I think, and I think lots of times it's very underrated, because how people feel about themselves leads to all sorts of things, enjoyment, confidence, all of it. And there again, gives both them and the team the best possible opportunity to have whatever they're trying to accomplish happen.
Well, I think it's the difference between coaching a team and coaching the individual players on a team. And it takes twice as much time, in my experience, to do what you're doing, because I've done it for years. And most coaches won't spend the time to do it, frankly. I mean, it's an ongoing process. I mean, look, you know, I worked in the USA Hockey Coach Education Program for 20 years as an instructor. And then I'd go to the rink and see the guys do the same old dumb stuff we just showed them not to do. And how many coaches are the last ones in the building and the first ones to leave as soon as practice is over? So I think people who coach the way you're talking about are, you know, they're the same as elite athletes, elite coaches. And you drive great results by that process. And I wish more coaches were like you.
I just forwarding Dave Barrett's email with an article to all of you, to all the Sharks.
I'm sorry.
Dave, I think your interjection with Ken was really appropriate and timely. Ken and I held a mission statement exercise, which you may not be familiar with, but it was created in 1990 with Dave King and working with Hockey Canada as a developer and a founder in coach development. And that particular exercise, Ken did it. That's what he's done all his life. Hell, he's really thought about what do you want to accomplish and get everybody aligned with what they want and help them to accomplish what they want. So that paper I'm sharing with everybody, it relates to leadership. And I wonder if you could allude to that a little bit, Dave, because it's amazing how what Ken is doing is something that's missing in the corporate world, in the business world that you teach to.
Well, let me just take a step back and say, when I quit coaching men's hockey 20 years ago and then went and did an MBA, I can remember sitting in the classroom listening to the backgrounds of people going, why am I here? And then it quickly dawned on me, and Ken is talking about this, it's really, whether you're coaching a hockey team or running a business, you're managing people. You're managing them to work collaboratively to a collective goal, while at the same time trying to develop their individual skills. And if you show as a leader or a coach or the head of an organization that you care about the people that you're tasked with developing, they will respond to that. And you just have to be fair and equitable in how you handle it. So the more I get involved in teaching at the business school, which I've been doing for 8 years now, the more I realize there's so many parallels to sport. And the words may be different, but the concept we're discussing are exactly the same. We teach decision-making skills in the classroom every day, the same as when I played college hockey, and my coach in the 1980s would call it read and react, right? Now we call it hockey IQ or whatever you want to call it. We teach that as business IQ. How do you analyze the information that's presented to you to make the most appropriate decision given the facts that you have, right? And then how do you inspire people around you to work with you towards a collective goal? So it's all the same stuff. It's just people pay a lot of money to come here, and people pay a lot of money to play hockey to get coached by you guys. So that's why I always think they're kind of common. And the stuff I give to Wally, some of it's academic, some of it's not, but it's really all about the same thing. What is the purpose of your organization? What are you trying to achieve? What culture are you trying to develop in pursuit of whatever your goal is as a business? And it's the same thing that we would talk about when we're coaching hockey teams. And if you want to get buy-in from people, like Ken is talking about, you go talk to those people and find out what they want to achieve. And the more input they have into what you're setting as your objectives, the more likely they are to respond to you when you're trying to get them to move in that direction.